started. And for the first question, we will begin with Ms. Skidley. What are your thoughts on the proposal on the ballot regarding liquor sales on Sunday?
Well, that caught me off guard. Really?
That's it, too.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's why it's to the vote of the people. That's what it's about. I don't think whether what I think about it as the district attorney matters. It's about what the people think. And that decision is going to be made on June the 24th.
Sure. Well, the charge of a district attorney is first and foremost to enforce the law. So what that means in regards to our position on something like this, I think we're going to get some agreement here tonight. We thought you'd see that. But I think absolutely this is something that the people should decide, vote your conscience on it. I know from my position as a city attorney working with local government, I know the tax and the extra income that comes with that. I also know, as a former prosecutor, the hardship that comes with liquor. And so I think that's something that I'm pleased to see that citizens of our community can decide on their own. I encourage everyone, go out, vote, make your own decision on that.
Well, if it passes, I would call it job security for the district attorney's office. We'll still be glad to file those DUIs. We'll still be glad to prosecute the public intoxications. We'll still be glad to find those people who are serving minors when they shouldn't be. So that is my opinion on it. We'll still support law enforcement in making those arrests. We'll support the victims' families should they fall victim to a drunk driving accident. But we will obey the law, and we will continue to prosecute them. That's my feeling on it.
Mr. Ballard, we'll let you go first with this question. Do you think it is necessary or should be necessary to take action on county employees that misuse county equipment, funds, or other county items for personal use? If so, what do you believe should be done?
Well, I believe first and foremost that an elected office doesn't belong to the person that holds the seat. It belongs ultimately to the people. And as a position of the people, it should be held accountable by your district attorney. You need a district attorney that you know is going to stand up for corruption, that's going to root out bad acts, and that's going to provide proper legal advice to the county government. Now, a lot of people don't realize the importance of the civil side of what a district attorney does. I've talked to you tonight about my experience as a special victims prosecutor, and as a prosecutor that has worked to fight drugs, major crimes, homicides. But the other part of my career has been as a civil attorney. I'm currently city attorney in Claremore. My firm represents the city of Catoosa. Our firm represents in total about 350 school districts throughout the state. And a background like that is what you need in a district attorney that's able to provide legal representation to the county officials. You need a district attorney that's able to tell a county official when they can do something, but more importantly, that will stand up and take a stand and tell a county official when they can't do something. And if you don't have a district attorney with that experience, you start having problems. You start having county officials that aren't getting the good legal advice that they need to do their jobs, and you start having a breakdown. So to answer the question directly, yes. I believe it is absolutely incumbent upon a district attorney to prosecute cases as they find them, to root out corruption no matter where it is, and to remember that these offices are held first and foremost in trust for the people who put them in. And if that trust is violated, it is incumbent upon a district attorney to root it out and to bring charges where charges are deserved. And as your district attorney, I'll absolutely do that. You have my 100% commitment to prosecuting the law, to following the law, and to just doing the job what a district attorney needs to do, and that is prosecute cases.
Ms. O'Connor?
If the law is violated, we're going to prosecute it. It's that simple. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Cases are presented to us that involve our own elected officials, then obviously we'll make a referral to the Attorney General's office to have them bring in outside prosecution for those county officials. It happens. It's not pleasant. It's difficult. Someone that you may know, that you've known for a long time, that you worked with. But if the law is violated, the law must be followed. It's a no-brainer. This isn't rocket science, people. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. We'll just follow the law, prosecute them, and move on down the pipe.
Ms. Snyder?
Well, this may surprise you all once again. I agree with both my opponents. I have in fact come into that. It was a couple of years ago when it was Salesha and the Progress that came to me stating, hey, I think there were crimes committed. Although by statute we represent the commissioners and we give them legal advice, our first and foremost job is to prosecute. I had them investigated. Commissioner Thacker knew that, Commissioner Hell knew that. I had that done over 2 years ago. OSBI was called in. I even sent OSBI right to the Progress because they did all this research. That has been sitting in the Attorney General's office now for approximately 1.5 years. What they're doing, I can't tell you. But that is my job, and that is what I do. I never held media conferences about it. That's not what you do. You want an investigation done. You don't want things compromised. So I've done that. With the latest audit that came out, all of those allegations had already been investigated because it was brought to my attention. When the public brings something to me, I will have it investigated. But where you run into a dicey situation is when we give legal advice. Because it was found on some of the allegations against the commissioner that my predecessor literally wrote letters stating, giving them legal opinions that we don't necessarily agree with. So what I do is I have it investigated, but I will send it to the Attorney General's office for either them to prosecute or to give to another district attorney. Because I don't want the people or other officials to think that there's any bias in my office because we represent the county commissioners. David Iskey is the first in this district to have the civil experience that he's been able to bring. He has over 25 years of civil experience. He worked in Tulsa County for Tim Harris, and we were fortunate enough to get him in when I took office. There were issues with people were questioning, one of them the Progress, thinking we were giving out bad legal advice to our commissioners. We're allowing them to break the law. So you know what I did? I went around to every commissioner because they are our client, and I asked them, would you sign a waiver of your attorney-client confidentiality and let me give every legal opinion we've written to the Progress? Everyone signed it without hesitation, and we gave every one of those over. That was well over 2 years ago. Mr. Iskey writes a legal opinion like an attorney general writes an opinion. When you give him a fact pattern, he is going to write it, and he is going to write it thoroughly. We have many times told commissioners, you can't do this, you can't do that. We represent 9 of them. We have 3 different counties. And they respect our opinion, and we appreciate that. But I have done my job, and I've done it zealously. I just didn't cause a media frenzy when I did it, because that's not what it's about.
Thank you. Ms. O'Quinn, will you be the first on this one? Given that the district attorney represents multiple counties and within that multiple cities, do you feel that you can impartially represent all of those counties and equally represent all of those counties and all of those cities within those counties?
Well, as I stated earlier, in my experience as a judge for 10 years, I did travel to the other counties, both Mays and Craig County. Mays County, at one time, I was going every Friday. Craig County, I was going every other Thursday. So I am familiar with their needs in all 3 counties, in addition to my home county that I was based out of. I do know all the law enforcement agencies in all 3 counties, and I know their chiefs or the sheriffs. I have a good working relationship with them. I know the business owners. I've met citizens while on the bench and while out on the campaign trail. With the adequate funding, and if elected, we plan to seek further grants to bolster our funding. We can provide adequate representation. We can also, if for instance, Craig County generally has one assistant district attorney assigned up there. If we see that there's a need during a jury term or there's a lot going on, we can send one of the assistants from one of our other counties to go and help out on a need basis. So that is not a problem. That is something that I look forward to. It is something that I'm used to. It's something that I'm experienced with. And as your next district attorney, feel confident that not only will Rogers County be represented, but Mays and Craig will as well.
Oh, could you repeat the question?
Yes. Given that the district attorney handles multiple counties and multiple cities within those counties, do you feel that you can fairly represent all 3 of those counties and all of those cities within those counties?
Yes, I've done that. And we have been doing that. As Ms. O'Quinn has stated, we have always rotated prosecutors. Craig County does have 1 prosecutor. When we have jury terms where we have multiple cases, you have to understand, especially in Craig, you have 1 judge that tries it. So, you know, you have 1 judge with 1 jury. We've actually requested, especially here in Rogers County, we've wanted to broaden the jury terms so we can get several more trials done and have cases going faster. We've always done that. My prosecutors move throughout the district, help out wherever we can. We're not islands, we're a unit, and we work together. We have provided training throughout the district. Our lawyers, between all of our lawyers within our office, we have over 156 years of experience to offer. Mr. Iskey has given civil training to the commissioners and to different county elected officials that want them. Gary Stansel, who is state recognized, has given extensive training to law enforcement, especially regarding sex crimes, to get those cases as strong as we can, because they are one of the hardest cases to try, and those are typically the ones that we do try because they are so difficult. Not only does he do it within the district, but he does it within the state. He travels throughout with the Attorney General's office, and our attorneys do the same thing. We have put on trainings with the different law enforcement agencies, letting them know what we need better to prosecute a case. What are the local issues going on in the courtroom? How are judges ruling? What are defense attorneys arguing? So we give that, always have, and will continue to.
Well, I'm a product of Northeast Oklahoma. I lived the first 15 years of my life in rural Rogers County. We lived on one of those gravel, dead-end dirt roads down by Oolaga by the lake. I've lived the last 3 years of my high school career. We moved to Claremore. I lived in the city limits of Claremore. After law school, I went to Oklahoma County, so I've lived and practiced law outside this district. And I bring that experience with me. The bottom line is, crime doesn't stop at the county line. Crime doesn't stop at the city limits. It doesn't matter which side of 145th you are here in Rogers County. It doesn't matter as you cross into Mays County. It doesn't matter as you cross into Craig County. The simple fact is, crime is regional and needs to be combated on a regional basis. I'm proud to say that I've been throughout this county, and I've received endorsements for the fraternal orders of police in each of the largest police agencies in each county: Claremore Police, Pryor Police, and Veneta Police. And the reason for that is because they understand and they know that I'm willing to work district-wide to combat crime. As city attorney, I've helped and assisted our police chief and our police force to develop interlocal cooperatives. I know how important that is here in Catoosa. Or you have interlocal cooperatives and cross-deputization agreements with the Cherokee Marshal Service. Those agreements are absolutely critical, and I've spent my career working on those. One of the foremost things that I intend to do as your district attorney is to begin looking at interagency and looking at multi-jurisdictional crime fighting. You know, Claremore has resources that Catoosa doesn't have. Catoosa has resources that Oologah doesn't have. Pryor has resources that Claremore doesn't have. And you need to marshal those forces together and use them district-wide. The simple fact is the district attorney's office can serve as the hub for all of that. They can serve as the hub that provides training for law enforcement agencies, that allows agreements to be in place, that can suggest cross-deputization agreements. And the best example I can think of this multi-jurisdictional fight to crime is a recent child that was abducted out of Tulsa. And it was 2 Claremore police officers who were able to provide the tips that solved that. And the reason that you have that is you have to have cooperation across boundary lines. As your district attorney, I will absolutely continue that. I will make that a focus and a priority of my administration, and try to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be a combination of several, so bear with me on this. The district attorney's office has had credibility issues with the police forces in multiple counties and throughout the jurisdiction with other county offices. Do you believe that you can continue to efficiently work with those various factions and bring them back together for the betterment of all of Rogers County? And I believe, Ms. Tiley, you would be the first one for this.
Okay, could
If
you
I'm
give
not on my count. We've got 3 this time, so.
Okay, could you give me the last part of the question? DA's office has had credibility issues in multiple counties and what?
And with multiple organizations within those counties.
Okay. Okay. First off, I don't know what the credibility issues are. Like I stated, it's a real simple issue. We have a duty to do under the Constitution to protect the people, and there were some officers that didn't like that. We've been validated with that. So if that's a credibility issue, there's nothing I can do about that. I've shown my credibility in that I've stood up and I've stood up to the people. Our local sheriff was just on the news the other night when back in September he said if there was nothing found in this grand jury petition which he signed, he would sit down and shut up. But he was on the news again the other night. I can't help that. During my tenure, our sheriff hasn't turned in one report that he's investigated. So when you have a head of an agency saying that he can't work with me, that is unfortunate that they would say that. But every deputy and every officer is coming into our office on a daily basis, dealing with us, asking us questions. We're on call 24/7 within our jurisdiction, and they have not stopped utilizing that. I have many of my assistants here. Ms. Reniger is our prosecutor on sex crimes in Rogers County. She goes to trial the most because, as I stated, those are the most tried cases. She is in that office every weekend. She's there with officers prepping them. She is taking their calls, their texts. Larry Edwards, my first assistant, who has more experience than I can ever fathom to bring to this district, he is there every weekend. We work non-stop, and we have with law enforcement. So the perception that we don't work or there's credibility issues, there's no credibility issues with me. They may not like decisions I've had to do, but I can't help that. I am governed by the law and I'm governed by the Constitution. Regarding other multiple organizations, there's been rumors out there. This agency is pulled out, that agency is pulled out. I heard how the U.S. Marshal Service pulled out when they were in our office just a few weeks ago using our office, and we have been getting cases from them filing. So there is truly a misperception of what is going on. Are there some law enforcement agencies that aren't happy because of what we had to do? I have not a doubt. Look at what we've been through. We have been persecuted. But we have done the right thing. It's been validated. And we work every day with with law enforcement, and we will continue to. We have not dropped the ball. There has not been any break in anything we've been doing. There's no way that a defense attorney would allow it, and there's certainly no way that a judge would allow it. We have been doing business as usual, and we will continue to do so.
Ballard?
You know, I was at a city council meeting the other night, and during the meeting it was one that involved a ceremony that I've seen several times, but it kind of struck me as a candidate in this race. It was some new officers that were being sworn in. And the officers stood in front of the city council and they were asked to take their oath of office. And I'll never forget that the last line of that oath of office was to serve and protect the citizens, their lives, rights, and property with their life, if need be. The police officers who have made that commitment deserve a commitment from their district attorney. I'm prepared to make that commitment. I will 100% stand by and support our law enforcement officers and our law enforcement agencies. As a former prosecutor, I've worked with police officers. And I tell them, you know, we won't see eye to eye on every issue. I can't tell you that every officer that walked in walked out with a meeting of the minds. But you know what we always knew? We knew we were on the same team. We knew that we were working for the same goal. We knew that we were trying to accomplish the same thing, and that is to get dope off the streets, to put bad guys in prison, to stand up for the victims of crime. And even when we don't see eye to eye, and you don't see eye to eye with police officers all the time, and even when I'm telling an officer that I'm not going to take a case or that I need more information, you know, at the end of that, I've had heated exchanges with police officers that ended with a handshake. And the reason for that is there is mutual respect. And that's what we need in the district attorney's office. It's time that we had a district attorney that acts in a professional way at all times. Not some of the time, not part of the time. A district attorney that maintains their composure and acts with professionalism and respect at all times. And that's another commitment that I'm prepared to offer you. As I've said, I'm fortunate to have the backing of police officers, Pryor, Claremore, and Veneta. And the reason for that is that they understand that I will be a candidate that will stand behind them and that will support them. As citizens of this county, you deserve a district attorney that will work with law enforcement. And the first thing that you need to be able to do that is to recognize that there's a problem and to move forward with fixing it. And that's what I'm interested in doing. Moving forward and restoring leadership to the district attorney's office.
I'll tell you what the issue is. The issue is when law enforcement's out there protecting us, and protecting children, and protecting the elderly, and they're out there on the streets, and if they get in a shootout, they don't have the confidence that they're going to be backed by the district attorney's office. We ask them to go out there and put their lives on the line for us, and they do not have that confidence. And it has happened, and they didn't call the DA's office, they called OSBI to come in. I'll tell you about credibility. Yes, OHP has pulled out part of their unit, and they're driving down to I-40 every day. They're not working interdiction on the turnpike anymore, because they don't like how they're being treated by this district attorney's office. Are there bad cases out there? Yes, there are. Are they all bad cases? No, they are not. Is there problems with some members of law enforcement? Sure, there is in any profession. Are they all bad? No, they are not. So to paint them with this picture is one of the reasons I got in this race. It's unfounded and it's unfair. Cherokee Marshals don't want to work in our area either. They have some of the best resources available to them, and we've lost those resources. We've also lost the Drug Task Force. We do not have an active Drug Task Force team in the 12th District. We used to. They used to be very active. And if you're not familiar with the Drug Task Force, that is comprised of various members from every agency. And when they're working a certain area, they all come together. They bring their resources, they bring their manpower, and they work together. We need that drug task force back on the streets. We need to send a clear message to the citizens of our communities and our towns and our rural areas that these guys are out there to protect us and that they have the support of the district attorney's office behind them. They don't call the district attorney's office for legal advice. I still get phone calls from them. Of course, I have to give them a disclaimer. I'm not your attorney yet. You know, as a judge, I ruled against law enforcement. I ruled against them many times. I had to follow the law. Those are the rules that we play by. We didn't always disagree. I wouldn't say we had a cussing contest, but it might have come pretty close to it after the hearing. You know, they see it one way, and I saw it another. I can only rule on the evidence that was presented in front of me. And that's how we pick and choose on these cases that are presented to us as well. Are there issues with the district attorney's office? You bet. Over 7,000 people thought there were.
That was the last question that we had for the district attorneys.